We're at the end of round 9, and we're not going to slip stitch to the mark stitch. We're actually going to slip stitch to the one next to it, but we need to change colors too. So let's grab up our next color, which we're going to do this. We're going to do the brown black. Okay, insert your hook into that stitch, drop your main color, pick up your second color, so you want your tail to be on the far side of you and your working yarn to be closer to you. Insert it in there and pull up a loop, pull it through, and before you go any further, you want to go ahead and put a little knot in there. Now, I like to do that. If you don't like knots in your crochet, that's totally understandable. You can always take that knot out later on when you go to weave in your tails. And you want to snip off your main color. And now we can start working with our brown. Now you're going to have a lot of tails to weave in. I've tried to figure out any other way to try to not have tails to weave in on this pattern, and there's no way around it. So we can go ahead and take this stitch marker out now because we don't need that right in that particular spot. So we're going to go ahead and chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. And put our stitch marker right in the top of that chain. We're not going to turn. And we're going to work in the next 2 stitches. We're going to go ahead and put double crochet. So 1 and 2. Chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. Next 2 stitches, excuse me, 1 double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Get that right, that wording right, so that you understand what we're doing. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and double crochet in the next 3 stitches. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around. So chain 1, skip the next stitch, and double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So continue working this pattern all the way around to get back to the beginning, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. We're at the end of round 10, and I've just did my last set of 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch to that top of that turning chain. Just like that. Now to start row 11, we got to change colors, but we're not going to change colors till we get over to the chain space. So we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next 2 stitches, just like that. And then when we slip stitch into that chain space, that's when we're going to change colors. So we need to bring in our next color. So we're going to bring in our parchment color. We're going to insert our hook into that space, grab the parchment color, pull it in, and pull it through. So now we've changed colors, and we're going to go ahead and tie the ends together because we're going to snip off our brown, and we're going to tie these 2 ends together. Again, you don't have to tie yours, but I do because I just don't want everything to fall apart. And bring these tails to the inside. I leave my tails kind of long so that I have enough to weave in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and chain up 3 again. Put our stitch marker in. and work 2 double crochet into that same chain space. That's our first cluster. And then we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip over these next 3 double crochet and go right to the chain space and work 3 double crochet. Kind of like working a granny square. Chain 1, hop over to the next chain space and work 3 double crochet. And you're going to continue that pattern all the way around till you get back to the beginning again. Chain 1. We're going to hop over to the next. Let me pull out some more yarn here. Hop over to the next chain space. Chain 1. Hop over to the next chain space. So continue working this pattern until you get to the end or back to the beginning, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. We're at the end of round 11. If I haven't already said this, you'll have 48 double crochet and 16 chain spaces. That is going to stay constant for all of these rounds where we have this this granny square stitch. So we're going to change colors again, but we need to slip stitch to the top of the turning chain to start with. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And in the start round 12, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch to the next 2 stitches to work our way over to the chain space. Insert our hook in the chain space. We're going to grab up our next color. This is going to be our main color. Pull through, and we're going to tie off and clip off our parchment color and tie these 2 together. Now I don't tie super tight knots, just kind of loose knots, because we're going to weave those tails in anyway. So if you really don't like the knots, you can always untie them and then weave in your ends. So we're going to go ahead and chain up 3. Grab our stitch marker, place that in there, pull up my sleeves, and start off with 2 double crochets into the same space. Chain 1 and hop over to that next chain space, and we're going to put 3 double crochets. Chain 1, hop to the next chain space, and 3 double crochets. So this stitch pattern doesn't change for all of the rows till row 20 while we're doing the granny stitch square. Say that 3 times fast. What a tongue twister. So we're just going to keep changing colors each row. Now I do my colors in this particular sequential order for this. You can have your colors in any order that you want. You can use 3 colors, you can use 4 colors, you can use different colors if you want. Whatever color order you want to have your colors in. You can switch them up whatever way that you want. But you're going to continue with the granny square stitch till row 20 or round 20. So continue working the granny square stitch and changing colors every row if you want to do it the way I have until row 20 or round 20. And I'll meet back up with you at the end of round 20 where we're going to start the bottom portion of our romper, the portion that goes over the diaper. So I will meet back up with you at the end of round 20. We're at the end of row 20 or round 20, and we're going to go ahead and take out our stitch marker and slip stitch to the top of the turning chain. Just get our hook right in there. And then go ahead and fasten that off. Now you can go ahead at this point and weave in all your ends. I wove in most of my ends. I just have these two ones left to do, but that's up to you. You can weave your ends in now, or you can wait and do it at the end of the project. To start the bottom portion of the romper, we're going to go ahead and get our main color. And we're going to want to have 8 of these shells, and how you determine if you got the right number is you look where you fastened off, go to the next shell to the right, and attach your yarn to that shell. So in other words, 3 double crochets over from where you fastened off. I'm going to chain up 2. Put our stitch marker in the top of the top of that turning chain, and we're going to be working on the front side first. And double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And double crochet into the chain space. Now you could work it into the chain if you want, but I find it just easier to go into the chain space. And then we're going to double crochet into that stitch where we fastened off, and into the next 2 stitches. You can grab up that tail where you fastened off and work over the top of that if you'd like. Be one less tail that you have to weave in. And then just continue working double crochets. Whoops, make sure you actually finish your double crochet. There we go. And then you can continue working double crochets into each stitch and into the chain space for 8 of those shells. Or you're going to, if you count over, it'll be 7 times, so you're just going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do not go into that last shell. You're going to end with the double crochet of that shell, so you don't go into that chain space. You leave that chain space unworked, and you leave the remaining stitches unworked. So I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. We're at the end of row 1 of the bottom front. We should have 31 double crochets. To start row 2, you're going to chain 1, turn the work, and we're going to double crochet 2 together. So how we're going to do that is we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. Then we're going to double crochet in the next 27 stitches, And when we get to the last 2 stitches, we're going to double crochet those 2 together. And let's just clip off this little tail here because it's kind of sticking up there and getting in the way. So I'll meet back up with you at the end of this row where we're going to double crochet 2 together. And let's not forget to put our stitch marker in that first stitch too, so we can find it easier on the way back. Okay, so continue double crocheting in the next 27 stitches, and I'll meet back up with you when we're down to our last 2 stitches. We're at the end of row 2, and we're going to do that double crochet 2 together again. So you yarn over, insert into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert into the next stitch, which is the chain 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 3. So now at the end of this row you will have 29 stitches. So you're going to continue working the same, repeating the same row, row 2. So you're going to double crochet 2 together on either end until row 7. You will decrease 2 stitches each row. When you get to row 7, you'll have 19 stitches. So it'll go 27, 25, 23, 21, 19. So I will meet back up with you on row 7. We're at the end of row 7. We have 19 double crochet across the row. We're going to go ahead and fasten off. Take our stitch marker out here because we're done. Okay, so now we're going to repeat this on the back panel. So we're going to flip our piece over and we're going to repeat that same panel. So go ahead and get your color, your main color on your hook, and we're going to go to that first cluster, not in the chain space, but that first double crochet, and attach our yarn, chain 2, mark that first stitch, and again you can work over your tail or you can weave it in later. And we're going to do the same thing like we did with our front panel. We're going to work that 31 double crochets the exact same way. You're going to work the same 7 rows just like you did for the front panel, but at the end of the 7 rows, do not fasten off. Come on back, and we're going to work an edging. Because we're actually going to work 2 more additional rows and then work an edging. So get to row 7, come on back, and then we'll work row 7, we'll work row 8 and 9, and then we'll work the edging. So I'll meet back up with you once you have your 7 rows completed. Just repeat row 2 through 7 just like we did on the front panel. Once you get to the row 7, which you will have your 19 stitches, come on back and we'll work rows 8 and 9 together and then we'll do our edging around the bottom of the diaper cover, or the diaper portion. We're at the end of row 7 on the back portion of the bottom part of our romper, which covers the diaper area. And we need to do row 8 and row 9. So we're going to chain up 2. Row 8 and row 9 are exactly the same. We're just going to turn the work and put 1 double crochet into each stitch. This chain 2 counts as our first stitch, so our next stitch is going to go right here. And just put 1 double crochet into each stitch. So we have 19 stitches. That stitch count will stay the same for row 8 and row 9. So just go ahead and put 1 double crochet into each stitch for row 8 and row 9, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of row 9. Again, do not fasten off yet because we have to do the border. We're at the end of row 9. We still have 19 stitches. I've taken my stitch markers out because we're not going to need them anymore. For the edging, we're going to go down the edge of the rows around to the front panel, all the way around and back across the top. So chain 1, and we're going to turn our jumper, our onesie, and we're going to put 2 single crochets into each end of each row. Now you can work them into the stitch or around the stitch, whatever you're more comfortable with. I just kind of go around the stitch, but it's really up to you, whatever you're comfortable with doing. But it is 2 single crochets per row. And with those decreases, you might have to finagle it to work per row. So continue working the 2 single crochets into each row. And when you get back, not to the beginning, but when you get back to this corner right here, which is on the back of the back portion of the romper, I will meet back up with you because we're going to do something a little bit different across this back so that we can have button loops here to go over the buttons, because the buttons will go on the front part of the romper. So I'll meet back up with you when we get to this back around to this corner. So you're going to go all the way around the diaper cover, all the way around the diaper portion, back to this corner right here on the back part. I've made it all the way back around, and we're at that opposite corner again. So we're back around. We've went all the way around the entire bottom. And in this first stitch, we're going to place 2 single crochets to round the corner, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and single crochet in the next 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then chain 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and then single crochet in the last 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to slip stitch to that first single crochet that we did, skip the chain 1, and go ahead and fasten off. And then you can weave in any of all your tails from this part. And then we're going to go around the collar and the back button area and around the sleeves. Now you can do that in this main color, or you can do that in one of the secondary colors if you'd like. I'm going to do it in the main color. So we're going to start at the back of our romper. We're going to start at the back corner right here at the left side of our romper. So we're going to put a slip knot on our hook, and we're going to attach our yarn to we're going to be working on the opposite side of the chain. So in that very first stitch, whoops, gotta get, that tail is kind of in the way there. Attach with a slip stitch, chain 1, and in that same stitch we're going to go ahead and put a single crochet. Now I know that tail keeps popping in the way there. And let's bring that camera down a little bit. So in the opposite chains, opposite side of the chain, we're just going to work one single crochet into each one of those stitches. And it's going to go all the way around the collar. So just take your time and go all the way around. So we're going to work all the way. Back the camera out a little bit. So you're going to work all the way around the entire collar of the romper, and you're going to come back around here and work all the way down, putting one stitch right down here, and work all the way back up here and slip stitch to that first single crochet that you made, and then you can fasten off, weave in your tails, and that part will be all done. So I'll meet back up with you when we get back up here. I've made it all the way back around, and we're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet that we made, not the slip stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and fasten off, and then we have these tails to weave in, which I'll do that later. And now we can go ahead and work around our sleeves. Okay, we're going to have the sleeve facing us, and we're going to start in the armpit, and we're going to work on attach our yarn just to the side of those two stitches at the armpit. Chain 1, and work 1, 2, 3 stitches in the armpit, and get my pattern up here. We're going to work 26 single crochets around the arm, around the armpit hole, around the armhole. So that's now 4 stitches. And then just work into these stitches around here, And just make sure that you have 26 single crochets around the arm. Once you get one sleeve done, go ahead and work the other side, and then I'll meet back up with you and we'll get our buttons on. We have all our tails woven in, we just need to sew our buttons on. So we're going to sew one button right here on the left side of the back on the opening, and then you will just push it through one of the stitches to close it. And then on the front, on the diaper area, you'll line up the holes like so and sew the buttons down to match where the holes are. So you'll sew the two buttons down right there. So I'm going to go ahead and sew those down and I'll be right back. So here's the completed romper. We have our buttons sewn on the bottom. You can see they unbutton for a quick and easy diaper change. And we have our button on the back to help put it over the baby's head without too much struggle. So if you like this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there in the corner. That will automatically subscribe you to my channel. And if you like this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that you like my videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy crocheting! Bye-bye!